The storyteller is Piswa, who is calling in to share his experience on the show. He greets the host and begins by saying that this story, The Border Monster, is something he personally encountered. The incident happened approximately 6 to almost 7 years ago. This is a first-hand experience involving both himself and fellow soldiers who were stationed at a military base for privacy and security reasons. He chooses not to reveal the actual name of the military base where this occurred. I have considered it and decided not to mention the actual name of the operation. Instead, I will refer to it as just a military base located in the northeastern region of Thailand. This base is situated on a mountain. I prefer not to disclose its name to avoid any risks for the soldiers currently stationed there. This story takes place during my time as a conscripted soldier in my second year of service. Battalion was assigned an important border operation requiring full combat readiness. That year, 2 battalions were deployed together for the mission. However, I will not mention the other battalion as it was stationed elsewhere. During the training period, soldiers were assigned to different platoons through a selection process. As for me, I was placed in a surveillance unit. My position was as an assistant to the watchtower, responsible for spotting and reporting enemy movements rather than operating artillery directly. We underwent additional training to refresh our skills before being deployed to the base. For 1 year, as the deployment date approached, we began preparations for the journey to the border area. Senior soldiers, including sergeants and squad leaders, were deployed first to secure the area and prepare the base before the rest of us arrived. They went about a week in advance to ensure everything was ready. The full unit followed later. Upon arrival, all soldiers, including myself, were gathered for role assignments. I was placed in the platoon command post CP located at the upper base of the main command center. CP 100 was positioned at the lower base. The upper base served as a key surveillance and observation point facing the opposing side. To visualize this base from the outside, it appeared like an empty mountain, but in reality, it was a hidden underground bunker. If an enemy scout was observing, they wouldn't see it unless lights were turned on. When we reported in, the senior soldiers who had arrived earlier briefed us on daily duties and responsibilities. Each soldier had to be at their assigned post from 5:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day. Before sleeping on the first night, the senior soldiers warned us, before you rest, go pay respects to the 3 guardian spirits near the entrance. If you don't, you might experience something bad. However, after a long, exhausting journey in an uncomfortable military truck, most of us were too tired and forgot to perform the ritual. We traveled in a large GMC military truck, which made for a rough and uncomfortable ride. The bumpy roads made it nearly impossible to sleep. By the time we arrived at the base, we were completely exhausted. For unpacking and securing our equipment, everyone fell asleep immediately, forgetting the important ritual that our squad leader had instructed us to do, lighting incense and paying respects to the guardian spirits for protection. The next morning, after assembling for cleanup duties, we noticed that the base was overgrown and in poor condition. While clearing out the area, I had a nagging feeling that we forgot something. I asked my fellow soldiers, "Did the squad leader tell us anything important yesterday?" Most of them couldn't recall, replying, "No, I don't remember. I was too exhausted." While discussing this, we divided into teams. Some stayed behind to reinforce sandbags, while others, including myself, were sent to gather bamboo and small trees for building shelter structures. Before we left, our squad leader warned us, "Do you even know where you're cutting trees? If you wander around recklessly, you might step on a landmine and die." That statement shocked us back to reality. This was a border area with potential minefields. We had no idea which areas were safe to walk on to prevent accidents. The squad leader personally guided us to a pre-checked safe zone where we could cut bamboo. He pointed out markers. "You can only cut trees within this area. Look for the spots where I planted bamboo stakes and tied plastic bags. Those mark the safe zone. If you go beyond those points, turn back immediately. That area hasn't been fully cleared and could still have unexploded mines." Our squad leader warned us again, "If you accidentally step on a landmine, you're done for. It's not worth losing a leg or worse." After acknowledging his warning, we proceeded with cutting wood to reinforce the bunkers and improve the base. flooded the bunkers, and 7 or 8 of us woke up soaked. Even worse, the water level was only a few inches away from an electrical outlet. If it had risen just a bit more, we could have been electrocuted. Clearing and reinforcing the bunkers, we decided to completely dig out the bunkers, removing all the mud and debris. The previous unit had left behind a lot of trash, so our squad took on the responsibility of restoring the base to a more functional and livable state. Since this was a high-priority base, it was subject to inspections by high-ranking officers. Additionally, we were stationed alongside an artillery unit, which relied on us for marking enemy targets. First night on guard duty, that evening after showering and gathering for a briefing, our temporary squad leader, Sergeant Moo, gave instructions. Tonight, we'll have 4-hour guard shifts with 2 soldiers per shift. The night vision cameras haven't arrived yet, so use your flashlights when necessary. But don't walk around with them on. Only use them if you hear something suspicious. If anything seems off, shine your light and keep your weapon ready. It could be an enemy soldier or a dangerous animal. He also reminded us this base is within a wildlife conservation zone, so you might encounter wild animals. Do not shoot them unless they pose an immediate threat. Taking my shift, I was assigned to the 3rd watch just before dawn. When it was my turn, I sat at the post, listening to music on my phone while keeping alert. First, everything seemed normal, the sound of the wind, the chirping of frogs. However, since we hadn't fully cleared the vegetation around the base, I occasionally heard rustling in the grass and leaves. I figured it was probably a snake or some other small animal moving around, because the presence of soldiers was disturbing their habitat. When my shift ended, I woke up the next soldier for his turn and went back to sleep. The night vision cameras arrived. When my shift ended, I woke up the next soldier for his turn and went back to sleep. The night vision cameras arrived. This was when things started to get really eerie. Night patrol and the mysterious figure. During the night shift, we were assigned to guard duty at the watchtower, not at the mess area like before. We were also given night vision surveillance equipment with 2 modes. Standard night vision displays in a green-tinted view similar to what you see in military movies. Infrared thermal imaging detects body heat, displaying warm objects as orange or red figures. Our password system for shift changes was strict. The incoming guard had to say lightning. The current guard had to reply thunderstrike. If the response was incorrect twice, we had to open fire immediately to prevent infiltration. Since we were stationed at a border outpost, we carried live ammunition at all times. This was not like the garrison duty where soldiers stood guard without weapons. No one was allowed to joke around. Encounter at the watchtower. I was on first watch from 9 p.m. to midnight. Rotation followed a clockwise shift, meaning the last guard would become the first on the next day. As I sat at my post, I suddenly heard rustling sounds in the forest below. The area was sloped, so anyone moving carelessly could easily fall down the ridge. I grabbed the night vision scope and scanned the area, but nothing. Thinking it might be a small animal, I switched to thermal mode, and that's when my blood ran cold. There was a figure. At first, I thought it was a person, but something was off. The upper body looked human, but the lower half was a snake. I immediately readied my weapon, thinking, is this an enemy soldier? Some kind of trick? I rubbed my eyes and checked again. It was still there, clear as day in the thermal scope. A humanoid figure with a snake's tail moving through the trees. It didn't seem to notice me. It just slithered away into the darkness, shaken but silent. At that moment, I questioned my own sanity. Did I just imagine that? The encounter lasted about 20 seconds before the figure disappeared into the woods. I decided not to tell anyone immediately. I didn't want to scare my squad mates or have them think I was losing my mind. When my shift ended, I hurried down, pretending I needed to use the bathroom. Truthfully, I just wanted to get away from the watchtower. I handed over my shift and asked my replacement, "Everything seems normal, right?" He casually replied, "Yeah, all good, bro. I chose not to mention anything if I did. Some guys might refuse to do their night shift, and I didn't want to be blamed for spreading paranoia." The morning after, the next morning, while preparing breakfast, some of the younger soldiers started chatting. One of them asked, "Hey, did anyone see anything weird last night? That's when I froze. Had someone else seen it too? The strange figure that everyone saw the next morning while having breakfast. My squad mates started discussing strange encounters from the previous night. I decided to break my silence and said, "Last night I saw something through the thermal camera. It looked like a person, but the lower half was a snake." Immediately, one of the younger soldiers spoke up. "Wait, you saw that too?" "But I saw something even weirder. It had 3 heads." Everyone saw it but different forms. At first, we thought it was just a trick of the camera. But then we realized all for night shift saw something and each saw it in a different form. Shift 1 me saw a half-human, half-snake figure. Shift 2, a soldier used the zoom function and saw ***, the same creature ***, but with 3 heads. Shift 3, the figure appeared bigger, more monstrous, with extra heads growing from its shoulders. Shift 4, the worst, it stood right in front of the base, a towering figure with a snake's head and an elongated human body. The soldier from Shift 4 described it in horror. It wasn't just far away, it was right there, in front of me, tall as a tree. It looked straight at me through the camera. That's when we knew this wasn't just our imagination. Scolded for speaking about it, we kept discussing until our superior officer overheard. "You idiots. Stop scaring the younger guys if they're too afraid to do their shift. Who's going to guard the base?" I was about to defend myself, but the others stayed silent. The officer ordered, "No more nonsense. Finish your meal and get back to work tonight. Say your prayers before going on duty." Despite the scolding, none of us wanted to go back to the watchtower. The next night, a different horror. That night, my shift changed from first to second. I told myself, I won't look. I don't want to see anything. But then I heard something. It wasn't footsteps or rustling, it was voices, whispering, but it wasn't Thai. It wasn't any language I knew. It was muffled, like multiple people talking at once, just out of earshot. What the hell is that? I checked the cameras again, nothing. But the voices kept going, growing louder and closer. By the time my shift ended, I woke up the next soldier for Shift 3 and he had the worst reaction. He started screaming. He lost control, shaking, eyes wide with terror. That's when we realized whatever this thing was, it wasn't just something we saw. It was getting into our heads. That night, I saw something, but I didn't look directly with my eyes. I only saw it through the camera. The camera captured it. What I saw appeared to be a person, but from the waist down, it was a snake. My friend also saw something, but described it differently, saying it had 3 heads. We asked how big was it? Was it large? My friend replied, "Do you see that coconut tree near our base? That's about the size of its body." At that moment, I realized that I had seen something similar too. I said, "Wait, are you saying you saw the same thing as I did?" "I saw a person too, but from the waist down. It was a snake." We started questioning ourselves. Could we be seeing things? Maybe our eyes are playing tricks on us. Maybe it's just the camera acting up. But then, every shift of guards for shifts in total reported seeing the same thing. We asked the third shift, "What did you see?" The response was shocking. At first, I thought it was a person, but when I zoomed in with my camera, I saw it had 3 heads. It wasn't just 1 head, there were 2 extra heads beside the main one. But the most terrifying experience happened during the 4th shift. One of the guards reported seeing a full-bodied creature. I saw it clearly through the camera. It was standing right in front of me. It was a tall, big figure. It looked like a ghost, but not quite. Its face was that of a snake, but its body was human. It was incredibly tall, with long limbs. We started wondering if we were just imagining things or if we were too exhausted. But then, strange noises started occurring. That night, during my shift, I heard voices, whispers in a language I couldn't understand. It was like people talking, but I couldn't make out the words. I tried to ignore it, but the sound persisted. I checked through the camera in both normal and infrared modes, but saw nothing, yet I could still hear the voices. When I finished my shift and woke up the next guard for the 3rd shift, I didn't expect what would happen next. Around 4 a.m., the guard from the 3rd shift suddenly ran down in a panic, screaming at the top of his lungs, waking everyone up. He was shouting, "Help! Help! Ghosts!" People ran to him, turned on the lights, and asked, "What's wrong with you? Why are you screaming?" He was in such a state of terror that we had to physically restrain him. He was about to run into the forest where he could have stepped on landmines. 4 or 5 of us had to hold him down. He was struggling and screaming. We had to cover his mouth to calm him down. Once he finally settled, we asked what happened. "What did you see?" he said. I saw a snake." We were confused. "A snake? You're screaming like this because of a snake," he clarified. "Just any snake. The snake I saw wasn't small. I didn't even see it with my bare eyes. I saw it through the camera. At first, I saw a person standing in front of me about 10 to 15 meters away, but then its lower body turned into a snake." Then he described the most horrifying part. It didn't just have a cobra hood. It wasn't like a normal snake. The hood was covered in human heads, 10-20 heads, all forming the shape of a cobra's hood, and they were moving. It was looking at me, trying to come closer. That's when he panicked and ran, screaming for help. One of our senior officers, Sergeant Moo, came up and smacked me on the head, scolding. "I told you to light incense and pay respect when you first arrived. Now look, everyone's seeing things." I explained that I had been exhausted from traveling, setting up camp, and unpacking gear, and in the process, I had forgotten to follow the tradition of paying respect to the guardian spirits of the area. Sergeant Moo sighed and handed me some incense sticks. "Here, take these. Each of you light 9 incense sticks and apologize. Tell the spirits that you're here to do your duty, not to disrespect them. Ask for their protection." We all went and performed the ritual, and after that, no one experienced anything strange again. Later, while we were cleaning up the area and improving the base, I made a chilling discovery. Underneath the Buddha statue on the hill, I found a human skull buried in the dirt. I immediately called the officers over. The skull had a hole in it, as if it had been shot. We kept searching and found another skull near the observation tower, hidden under some debris, and a third skull was found near the patrol path leading into the forest. We gathered and questioned, whose skulls are these? Are they from fallen soldiers? The mystery of what we had encountered that night suddenly made sense. The spirits of the dead still lingered there, and we had unknowingly disturbed them. From that moment on, we made sure to always pay respects before starting our duties, and after that, nothing supernatural happened again. It was around 4 a.m., and I was sleeping when suddenly my junior came running down, shouting frantically. His voice was hoarse, and he screamed so loudly that he woke up the entire base. He kept yelling, "Help! Help!" Everyone was startled, turning on the lights and rushing out to see what was happening. Some people asked, "Hey, what's wrong with you? Why are you screaming like that?" He was completely panicked and tried to run outside. My comrades and I, about 4 or 5 of us, had to chase after him and hold him back. He was about to dash into the forest, and we were afraid he might step on a landmine or something dangerous. He was in such shock that he was uncontrollable. It took 3 to 4 of us to lock his arms and legs down, covering his mouth to calm him. We kept asking, "Hey, get a grip, what's wrong? What happened?" At that moment, some officers and sergeants came out asking, "What's going on? Why are you making so much noise? Some of us are trying to sleep." We were struggling to restrain him because if we let go, he would definitely run again. So we decided to tie his legs with a rope. He was completely out of it, so we had to splash water on him. When he finally calmed down a little, we asked, "What happened? What did you see?" He hesitated before saying, I saw a snake." We were confused. "A snake? Just a snake? You're screaming and running like that just because you saw a snake." But then he clarified, "No, it wasn't just any snake. Wasn't scared of an ordinary snake. The one I saw it through the camera." He was referring to the head-mounted camera he was wearing while patrolling. Camera allowed him to see clearly in the dark without holding a flashlight. But when he turned his head and looked through the camera, he saw something terrifying. There was a person standing right in front of me, about 10 to 15 meters away. At first, it looked like a normal person, but then it changed. The upper half remained human, but the lower half turned into a snake. We listened intently as he continued, his voice shaking. "But that's not the worst part. Normally, if a snake wants to intimidate someone, it flares its hood, right?" We nodded. But this one had spread its hood. It wasn't just a normal snake's hood. Instead of the usual markings, the hood was filled with human heads, 10. 20 heads all staring at me. It was like a cobra, but the hood was made of human faces. He was trembling as he recalled what he had seen. He said it looked like the creature was about to lunge at him, so he panicked and ran for his life, screaming. Hearing his story, one of the senior soldiers, Sergeant Moon, smacked me on the head and said, "I told you guys on the first day, didn't I, when you arrive? You must offer incense and pay respects to the guardian spirit of this place, but you all forgot. And now look what happened." I was still stunned, rubbing my head from the smack. I was too tired, Sergeant. We traveled a long way, and I was exhausted. I just forgot. The sergeant sighed and handed us incense sticks. "Here, take these, 9 sticks each. Go and apologize to the spirit. Tell them you're here for duty, not to disrespect them. Ask for their protection until your mission is complete." So we all went to the shrine and performed the ritual as instructed, including my junior who had been traumatized by what he saw from that day on. None of us dared to do night watch alone. We always patrolled in pairs just in case, and strangely enough, after the ritual, nothing else happened. No one saw anything unusual again. Later, while we were improving the base, I made a chilling discovery. Underneath the Buddha statue at the base, I found a human skull. It wasn't just lying in the open, it was hidden under some debris. I immediately called for my superior officers. "Whose skull is this?" I asked, pointing to the eerie remains. Upon closer inspection, the skull had a bullet hole in it. Someone had shot this person in the head. That wasn't the only skull we found. As we continued clearing the area, we discovered another skull buried near the watchtower, then a third one near the exit trail we used for patrols. We were horrified. Who were these people? One day, a special patrol unit consisting of paramilitary soldiers and forest rangers came to our base. While chatting with one of the officers, who appeared to be a sergeant, I casually asked, "Have you ever seen anything strange at this base?" The officer smirked. "Oh, so you've seen them too?" I froze. "Seen what?" He then told us the dark history of the base. Many years ago, during an intense battle, enemy soldiers from a neighboring country tried to infiltrate this base to assassinate our commanding officer. 3 of them snuck in, but our men spotted them first. They captured them, interrogated them, but those soldiers refused to talk. So in the end, they executed them, shot them in the head, but they didn't stop there. They cut off their heads and buried them in different locations around the base. The bodies thrown off the cliff near the watchtower. Everything suddenly made sense. The ghostly figures, the snake-like apparition, the haunting visions, it was them. The officer continued. Those spirits, they're lost. They can't find their heads, and that's why they've turned into vengeful entities. He warned us, every soldier who stays at this base, even for just one night, must pay respects to the guardian spirit, Pofu, the protector of this land. Otherwise, these vengeful ghosts will come after you. From that moment on, we never skipped the ritual again. And that, my friends, is the chilling tale of the restless spirits, those who still wander this base, searching for their lost heads. It is said that the vengeful spirits have become guardian entities of this base they protected, ensuring that anyone who comes with ill intentions or bad motives will face them. These spirits manifest in different forms depending on the person encountering them. Some people see a giant snake, while others see a creature with the body of a tiger but a human head. Sometimes they appear as a tall, lanky figure with a human body but a snake's head. Others describe seeing a beast with elongated arms and legs walking eerily through the darkness. Each person sees them differently, as if these entities can shift their forms at will. The old soldiers at the base tell stories of their past encounters, linking them to the history of the place, but no one can say for certain how the spirits choose to reveal themselves or why they appear in these particular forms. This is the mystery of the guardian spirits, once vengeful souls now bound to this land, ensuring that only those with pure intentions may stay.